Let me know when you can see my screen. You guys here?
Yes, JP.
Okay, able to see everyone?
Yes,
At
JP.
least. Okay, cool. So we have discussed it until here, I think. Bank groups done, transaction groups and types done. Bank reasons discussed, yes. Bank account creation, and we have also done some transactions using the same bank account. We have seen the balances as well as tracking of transactions. Today, let us discuss this part about how to frame a check or how to create the layout for a check in the bank account in Dynamics. So what are the dimensions we need to give and the details that we need on the check and how to configure that. So once we configure this layout, then only we can print a check through Dynamics. So without configuring the layout, we could not print checks for a particular bank in Dynamics. Okay. So it's not about printing the check, printing the information on the check. At least checks will be given by a bank only, right? Okay, printing that necessary information on the check can be done only when we fix the layout properly. So let us see this today, check mechanism. If time permits, we'll go until here if I believe it doesn't permit us. But let us see this check layout purpose, process and also creation of checks in Dynamics. How we can manually create the checks with the numbers that we need in Dynamics. Okay. So for that, I'm in my legal entity MRF, which we have created for our demo purpose. And I'll be going into cash and bank management to bank accounts. Yeah, cash and bank management, bank accounts and bank accounts, where we have created the bank accounts. I think we have one bank account, ICICI. You're right. Let me create one more bank account quickly. So I'll give this bank account as SBI one. Okay, no routing number. I'll give a bank account number this way. Give a main account. I'll create a unique main account quickly for this purpose. One lakh 4. SBI one. Right. So what is the main account type?
Asset.
Bank.
Main account
Bank.
type. So it's a bank account,
Asset.
yes. But bank accounts are always assets, so I'll keep it as asset. Then save this. Once you save it, do not forget this option. Select this, do not allow manual entry. Okay. Then we'll close this, go back, give the same account here, 1 lakh 4. Clear. You can give a bank name. Just give it a name, descriptive name if you want. State Bank of India, Hyderabad branch. And you can give a bank group to it. We have a SBI bank group which we have already created. We can give the same. And you see the currency is showing as blank because for this SBI bank group which we have created, we did not give a currency properly. So we did not select any currency. That is why system is giving the blank here for the bank even. So you can select whatever currency you want. You can select a foreign currency if in case this bank account is designated for only foreign currency transactions or to do transactions in a particular currency. Else you can go with US dollar, which is our accounting currency, so that we can do transactions. Also, you can enable this parameter. Why we use this parameter? Anyone?
While doing a foreign currency transactions.
Yeah, if in case you want to do any foreign currency payments or receive any amounts in foreign currency using this bank account, debiting or crediting the bank account, any scenario. Other than US dollar, if you want to use any other currency, you have to have this parameter enabled so that it will allow you to do additional currency transactions even using this bank account.
So is it maintainable?
Yeah, it is
we can,
maintainable. You can anytime change it. Okay, you can, if you want, you can enable it. If you want only US dollar transactions in this bank account, nothing else, and you can disable it and regulate your users from posting foreign currency transactions by using this bank account. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then we have two bank accounts now. So let's go for our first bank account, ICICI, which you have created previously. Let's see how much balance we have in our bank account. 20,000. Okay. How many transactions did we post? Let's click on transactions here.
Two
And
transactions, revenue and expense.
we have one revenue journal with where we have debited the bank account for 30,000. You can see the positive amount. And we have a expense journal transaction where we have credited our bank account for 10,000. So the delta amount of the total now is 20,000 remaining in the bank account. Correct. So in order to configure the check layout, okay, select the bank account for which you have to configure the check layout. Here, upon here, you have the option setup. So let's you have setup here. Under setup, you have layout, and under layout, you have option check where you can configure the check layout. Okay, click on bank account, setup, and you see this layout, check layout here. Click on this check layout here. It will redirect you to a page where you can configure your check or give the dimensions for the check and other details that you want it to be printed on the check. Before we look into the dimensions as well as the other option that has to be printed, there is one option here called as check number method, free or fixed. Does anybody have any idea what is this check number method, free or fixed? Any idea about free checks and fixed checks or difference between this? Anyone?
Sometimes bank will issue without any number on the check. That time that was the free fix.
Correct. How about fixed?
Automatically when they are giving to customers, the number was printed on the check. That was fixed, I thought.
Even though it's an assumption, it is a correct assumption. Does anybody have any other idea about what is fixed and free? Feel anything to add for what Saideep have added? You can add anything. Can add something more. See, generally, when we open a bank account with the bank and when we get a checkbook with from the bank, so we have all the details on the check already. You know, right? How would the check look like? We have our bank account number. We have our account name. I mean, the registered party name. If it is a person, is a person name. Or if it is a company, the company name. We also have the IFSC code printed on the bank already. I mean, so the check already. And there will be a unique number for the check, like 101 check number or check number, or you can have 4 digits also, 8112 like this. You have a unique number and you have a series of checks. Suppose if the bank gives you a checkbook for 100 checks, if the check number is starting with 8112 like this, and it will be until 8211. So total 100 checks. So the numbers will be fixed by bank. The check number or the unique number of the check will be fixed by bank, and you will bring the same checkbook. Whenever you give checks to the vendors, you will print the details of the vendor or write down the details of the vendor and the amount on one of the check. Suppose for vendor A, if I am issuing a check, I'll issue check number 8112 because I have fixed number checks which are already printed on the check. So I will use one of the check from the list of checks I have. Maybe I can use in order or I may not use in order. Mostly they will use in order only because of for the accountability purpose. That's what we have in fixed checks. Coming to free checks, bank will give you a checkbook, but bank will not print the check number on the check. You can enter whatever the check number you want, or there might be some parameters for having a format for number, but they don't fix the number. You can issue any number from your part, or else Dynamics automatically picks a number like 1, 2. I mean, it will start from 1. It will go with 2, 3 and order. If you want to change it, sometimes you don't want 3, you want it to be 325. You can change it to 325. It's up to you. It's in your hands if it is free checks. Okay. When it comes to fixed checks, the numbers are fixed by the bank when they issue the checkbook to you or to the company or to the client. They have the check numbers printed already on the checks, so you can't rewrite them. So in Dynamics, we have two different ways of maintaining checks. Either you can maintain free checks or fixed checks. If in case it is fixed number checks, which most of them follow, if it is fixed number checks, you have to also create the checks in the bank. So if bank have given you 100 checks like this, starting from this number to this number, you have to create all those checks. So which will be our next topic that has to be discussed in the course, creation of checks. After the layout is framed out, we can create checks if it is for fixed checks. But if it is free, you don't have to create any checks for the bank. System will automatically pick the check number as a continuous number. You can alter it if you want to. You can give any number as you wish. So we will see both of them. For one bank, we will configure fixed checks. For the other bank, we'll configure free checks. And while printing the checks, I'll show you the difference, how it works. Okay, is this clear? The fixed and free part for all of you? Anyone is still in confusion? I think I might have to point out. Seshu.
Yeah, JP, it's clear.
Okay. Then Srinivas.
Yes.
Okay, Shiv Kumar.
Sir, last point, sir. Credit
Last
transfer.
point. What?
Credit transferations.
I did not get it, Shiva.
సార్ ఈ పాయింట్ నాకు అర్థం కావాలి సార్, మీరు చెప్పిన లాస్ట్ పాయింట్ నాకు అర్థం కావాలి.
ఏ పాయింట్? I mean, mention it so we can repeat it. That's okay. So I was
credit card transactions.
Credit card transaction గురించి నేను మెన్షన్ చేయలేదు యాక్చువల్ గా. See, I did not discuss about credit card transaction at all. We were discussing this part actually.
This is a sequence one.
Yeah, we were discussing about check numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Fixed numbers and free numbers. How system perform in case we give fixed numbers, and what are the things we have to configure in case of fixed number checks, and what we have to look into in case if we are using free number checks, and how system performs. I was just giving an overview, and we'll go forward, configure, and we'll see how practically it works in Dynamics.
Sir, if we can infinite numbers also, we can keep it, no sir?
You can give any numbers. Okay. But there won't be any such business scenario where you have infinite number of checks. Actually, you will have limited checks, and each check is accounted.
Like
okay.
the crores 7.
Right. So that would be about free and fixed. For this bank, ICICI, we'll go for fixed checks. Okay, I'm selecting the check number method as fixed. Then we have a default format for printing checks. So most of them use this US check format. We also have different check formats for different countries, standard check formats or default check formats that Dynamics can print for you. So Danish check format, German check format, US check format. So what does this check formats indicate is where the data has to be printed. Suppose if we see Indian check format, all the checks will be in same kind of format. On the top right corner, you will have date, and in the bottom, you will have in the middle, you will have to issued to which person, to the vendor, or then you have one box for entering the amount in digits, another one row for entering the amount in words, then for signature. So this is the same layout we have for all the Indian checks. Maybe any bank, you'll have that same format. US check format resembles the Indian check format as well. It fits into the Indian check format. The remaining all, it differs again. So since we have in the right top corner, we have date, right? In some other format or in some other country, for their checks, they might have the date on the left hand corner. or signature on the right hand side of the right hand bottom corner of the check rather than on the left hand bottom corner of the check. It differs. Okay, you have to pick whatever the format that your client requires. So most of them will follow as US check format, as I was. In case they want any specific format wherein you can create any format and print the test check and see how it is being printed. Okay, so here I'm going with US check format. And I can give a prefix for my check. Suppose for the amount that I enter. So if at all I'm entering 1,000 amount, so the prefix will be like US dollar 1,000. So I can give USD, or I can give a dollar symbol if I want to, like this dollar symbol. I can give any prefix I feel like. I can give a number prefix or alphabetical prefix. For rupee, you can give a rupee symbol. For Canadian dollar, you can give CAD, or for Australian dollar, you can give AUD. Or if they have any specific symbols like pounds and euros do have symbols, right? You can give those symbols as a prefix for the amount that you enter on the check, for the digital amount that you enter on the check, not for the word amount. And you can also use other format other than the standard or default formats that are given in Dynamics. You can configure your electronic export format in the way you want. That's again in the electronic reporting where you have to configure the format and you can use that format. So then this will be disabled. This default format is not taken. Since we don't have any formats configured, it will show empty, but it takes a little technical assistance to frame this report. You can also do it if in case if you are well equipped with electronic reporting or for report. You can design your own check format as you wish using this electronic export format. If not, you can go for the default format that's available. If we go for electronic export format, you don't see any option. Everything is disabled. You have to configure everything there itself. But when you go for default, you see all of them are enabled and you can give the required margins as you wish here. So here also you can give when you design the format. Here you can give normal manual. You don't have to get equipped technically or work on electronic export formats. You can normally use a default format that's available. Okay, then coming to this layout part, you can give the paper length, how much length your check would have, like 11 inches. It's one of the standard one. Okay, go for 11 inches. Top margin, you go for 1 inch. Top unprintable margin, which means the empty margin I leave on the check. So it's not always one inch. Okay, it depends on the check. Suppose if your bank checks leaves only half inch on the top, right? Like 50 mm or 60 mm on the top of the check. You can go with another dimension like millimeter, 50 millimeter, you can say. That blank will be left over and nothing will be printed on that blank margin. After that, it will print. That's what. Go for 1 inch, also 1 inch. Bottom unprintable margin, so margin that has to be left under the check without printing anything. So that's 1 inch. So it again depends on the check dimensions. Okay, not always go blindly with 1 inch, but depends on the check dimensions you use. So with that, you can nearly measure it with the scale, the dimensions, and you can keep the exact dimensions here. Then check start positions, start the printing from 1 inch part. Okay, go with this 1 inch. Okay, just leaving that 1 inch unprintable margin, and from that 1 inch we'll start printing. Number of slip copies. Slip copies are actually, you can go with a maximum of 2. I think only 2. Yeah, 0, 1 or 2. So slip copies are nothing but whenever we issue check, we can also print the slips in Dynamics. So when we print the check from Dynamics, you can also print the slips along with that check, which is a generally you can print and you can use it for maintenance, or you can keep them so that it would be useful for an accountant or a billing person or someone in the department as a reference. But you can send one of the slip to the vendor and to whom you are sending the check, and you can keep one of the another slip.
It's like it's just like a carbon copy, like, right?
Not a carbon copy of the check actually, but just a slip, just an acknowledgement kind of small slip, not exact check, second copy of check. Okay.
Okay, fine.
So that would be with layout. As I told you, the layout dimensions will differ on the check size and the margins of the check. Okay, not most of them will use this printing check through Dynamics, but you better have it configured. So they have their own tools for printing checks. Most of them use their own tools, but still Dynamics do offer or have an option where you can print the check directly. I mean, the vendor details and the amount can also be directly printed onto the checks. We'll see how it will be printed going further. And then coming to setup, these are the details that you want to print on the check. If you feel like your bank have given a check wherein all these details are already there, the bank account number, bank name, and the company name and the company logo. If all these are all automatically on the check or customized, you have already customized it with your bank to print the company logo onto the check. If you have all these things, then it's quite good. But if you don't have them, if it's a blank paper kind of thing that your bank have given or you're authorized to print your own checks, then you can print all these details, bank account name, bank name, bank number, company name on the check. Company logo also you can print. For that you have to upload your logo here under the company logo option on the top. So you can upload an image from here. Actually, you can click on change and you can browse an image and you can upload it. I mean, but again, it should be in a dimension where it fits into the check. It should not be very big, it should not cover the entire check. Okay, logo is like a small image which have to fit in one of the side of the corner of check or bottom of the check or somewhere on the top left corner of the check. Just indication of check being sent by your company. Okay, sometimes logos printed on the checks are not valid or printing logos are not valid because that makes the check cancel or voided. What we say watermarks on the check are not valid in Indian checks mostly. That's if we want details to be printed on the check, we can select. Coming down, we have some codes. These ABC codes are prominent in US and Canada. If you want a code to be printed on the check along with the details that we have asked for, you can also add the, we can say that print A code and you can enter the A code number if there is any A code number, alphabetical or numeric or alphanumeric, anything. If you want B code, C code, any or three of the codes to be printed, you can enable them and you can add the code details here in the code box. It's not mandatory in India that we have these codes and details, but in US, one of the code might be mandatory to have one at least, depending on the nature of the bank or the business. I feel so they will be given these codes. And I have this MICR line option. Actually, in Indian checks, we have our MICR line or that magnetic line in the bottom, that kind of barcode or the black color strip we have in the check, magnetic strip that does have unique numbers also for each check again in the bottom, just like a barcode. So that's automatically there. But if it is not there and if you want to print your unique MICR line as with numbers, you can do that. You can enable this print MICR line on the check. You can also give length of check number, MICR number, suppose like 9 digits, and you can give 9 digits here, the MICR, or you can also give alphabets and digits, anything. So it's up to you. Mostly for every check that are issued in India, not only in India, but in other countries, even MICR will be compulsorily there. The bottom of the check, the black color stripe or any other color. But they should definitely have that color stripe as well as a unique number for that. If it's not there or if it's not given, if you are designing your own check, then you can maintain this as well. You can use this option, print MICR, but I'm not enabling this. Coming to the another step, we have signatures. So you can upload your digital signatures here in Dynamics and maintain them. So whenever you are printing check, according to the amount limit, one of the signature will be picked or both the signatures will be picked. Suppose if I say print first signature and I'll say I'll keep a amount limit of 50,000. If the check is up to 50,000, this one signature would be enough. So I can upload the digital signature from here by click on these three dots, click on change. I can upload one from my files. Digital signature of the manager or digital signature of someone who is capable enough to issue a check or whose signature is valid for a check. So that person's digital signature or the company's digital signature, if there is any registered with the bank, you can have that signature so that that check will be valid only once you have that signature printed on the check. Okay, you know that how much ever you write on the check, but it's only valid when you have the correct signature on the check, either printed or signed by the person who is capable enough to sign or who is appointed to sign. Then you can also print another signature if there is a amount limit. I mean, the amount is somewhere starting from 50,000 to 5 lakhs. If it is more than 50,000 and up to 5 lakhs, then both the signatures will be printed. You can give a limit like that, or you can exclude this limit saying starting from 50,000 to any limit going further. More than 50,000, anything, both the signature has to be printed on the check. You can keep a limit. I mean, you can also upload another digital signature here. If it is 50,000 or within 50,000, this check will be printed. If it exceeds 50,000, this signature along with this also will be printed. Both of them will be printed. So that's with signatures on check. So if it will only print once you upload the signature, and that has to be in a correct format too. I mean, digital signature format. So I'm not printing signatures, so I'll just disable them. Okay. Coming to bottom. So we have these options to print signatures as void, print signatures as copy, and watermarks if any. In case if you are voiding the checks, you can print a watermark on the check as void, means the check is no more valid or the check is cancelled. Like that, you can print a watermark. You can also print signatures as void sometimes. Once if a signature is printed already, you can also make it as void or cancel the checking. There are situations where we can cancel the checks. I'll tell you that too. So for that, we will use this option, or generally they'll be cancelled outside only. I mean, you don't use these all options for cancellation, but within Dynamics, we can use options to cancel the checks. I'll show you that. So this is pretty much about configuring a check layout. So what are the dimensions? Or these dimensions will work out definitely. And the details that you want on your checks, you can use it like this. And use the check US check format as I told. You can also try other formats and see how it is getting printed. Okay, we can also, since we have configured the layout, we can also test a check. You can ask the system to print a test check and see how it is printing. Negotiable check format, non-negotiable check format. It's a non-negotiable. Can go for negotiable. Okay, it can be shared. Okay, it is printing on screen. Takes a while. I believe it should print, but since it's a demo environment, I can't assure if it prints or not. But at any point it will print a check, and I can show you the check how it is printing, or according to our configuration, how a rough check will be printed. So don't assume that, I mean, a check will be created normally. Your bank will issue a check, right? So you will place that check in the printer. Whenever there is an option or making a custom vendor transaction for issuing a check, the details of the vendor as well as the account number and the details of the vendor and the amount details and everything will be printed on that particular check according to the dimensions you give and the way you keep your check in the printer. So according to that, it will be printed. Mostly they will have a Word format for checks. In Word, they will configure a format. They'll keep the check in the printer and click on print, so that details that they have framed in the Word in the Word format will be printed onto the check. That's how small companies follow. I mean, that would be really convenient actually. If you want to print check, you can erase the vendor name and give another vendor name, erase the amount and give another amount and print it on the check. I mean, you don't have to configure a lot of things or use a lot of things. But other than that, through Dynamics also you can print. So what happens if you print through Dynamics is it system accounts the check number, which check number is used for which vendor and how much payment is done and the transaction behind it, everything. Okay, it is printed. Luckily here you can see the PDF is downloaded. And this is how check format look like. Since this is a copy check, it have the watermarks as void and at the signature part as well as the top. You can see the company name and the company address is printed. Here the amount for box and the amount in line and issued for the vendor name will be printed, and your bank details, ICICI Bank, so and so branch and all. We did not give IFSC code, right? So that is not there actually, the field. That can also be printed if you give any codes. And here are the 2 slips that you're looking for. I mean, it's just a rough slip. Nothing is there in this, but once you print the check, we might see something. Okay, this is how the actual check layout. I mean, until here, it left 1 inch to actually it left 2 inches in the top. So in the same way, if you keep the check in the printer, it will print the details in this way. I mean, if the box of the check is like this, it will print the amount in that box and this amount in the words in this line and the vendor name in this line. Got it, guys? You got the logic, all of you? How this layout configuration will print the details on the check?
That's a big. The bottom one is the check the slip, right?
This one, these 2 are slips actually.
Okay, fine. Okay.
For this, you can keep an empty paper along with the check.
Okay, fine.
So this is how we configure the check layouts in Dynamics. So if you had given the signature here, that would have printed here the signature. I mean the digital signature. And the company logo can also be printed in the top here or somewhere here, and it will adjust somewhere here. And does anybody? Someone is asking something. Yeah, Chaitanya.
ఇది చెక్ ప్రింట్ ఎక్కడ ఆప్షన్ అది నేను జస్ట్ మిస్ అయ్యానది
ఎక్కడ ఉంది ప్రింట్ టెస్ట్
ఓకే థాంక్స్
జస్ట్ టెస్ట్ చెక్ ప్రింట్ అవుతుంది అంటే ఇలానే సేమ్ ఓకే
ఓకే
రైట్ సో let's go for the other bank, SBI. For this also we'll configure under setup layout check here. So for this I'll configure, I mean I'll go for free method rather than using the fixed method, since we have already used it for ICICI. Just to make you understand the differences when we use the checks, we'll use this method. Okay, prefix, yeah, we can use the same dollar. Paper length, you can go with the same dimensions, 11 mm, sorry not mm, 11 inches. 1 inch. Okay, bottom unprintable margin 1 inch. Okay, I'm check start position, I'm not giving any inch. Okay, let it start from that, after that unprintable margin of 1 inch. This last time when we gave 1, it actually took 2 inches space here, as you see 2 inches, 2 or 1. I guess it is 2 inches space. Okay, so let's give 1 and let's leave this as 0. And the bank details to be printed, yes. Company name, yes. And nothing else, that would be sufficient. Then, so here you can see check number, I mean it's a rough number, check number 9. Okay, I mean it will print whatever the check number you will give in free method, whereas it comes to fixed method, for this we have to create the checks again. So if you are clear with this concept of check layout setup, then we can go for creating checks for the bank account. So since we are using fixed method, we assume that we have received some checks with some already fixed numbers from the bank, and we'll create that checks in the bank account now. Clear, guys? Any doubts in the setup or layout? I mean layout configuration. Anyone can put up questions. If not, can go to the next topic.
Can you please explain the last point?
Last point.
I mean,
Give a hint so that I can get that
yeah,
point.
then I did not understand the point, so I can't.
Which point? I mean, I said like we'll create checks for our bank account now.
Yeah, if bank will give the fixed
Okay.
term, yeah, that point.
If bank will give you a checkbook on which the check numbers are already printed, that is what we call as fixed checks, right? So for this ICICI Bank, we have used the fixed method for checks. So assume that bank have given you a checkbook, or for the business a checkbook, and you have some 10 checks in it in the checkbook, 10 or 20. Okay, check number starting from some number, suppose 101. So 101 to 10 means 101 to 110 checks bank will give. So we have to configure that check numbers in the bank account here in ICICI Bank. So we will go for that configuration of, as I was saying, the same in the last point. Okay. So in order to configure the checks, you can click on here, manage payments. Besides setup, you have manage payments. Okay. Until now we have configured check payments. Now we are creating the checks to use them or to give them to the vendors or to use them for paying the vendors later. So first we'll create checks, then we will use them. If you are using fixed method, then only we'll create checks. If you are using free method, no need to create checks. System will take the check number automatically. But since it's fixed, you have fixed numbers, right? So to maintain the accountability, we'll create those checks here. So for that, you have manage payments option. Under that, I have checks here, related information checks here, manage payments, related information and checks. You also have other navigations to do, but you can, if it is for individual bank, you can create it from your better convenient way, not to get confused. Select the bank account, click on manage payments, click on checks. So if I click on checks, I see they are empty. We do not have any checks. So to create checks, we have this option here, create checks, right? So I'll show you once again. In the bank account, select the bank account, click on manage payments. Under related information, you can see checks. Click on checks and you can create checks now. So to create checks, click here on create checks. So it asks me, it says that for ICICI Bank, we know system also knows that through ICICI Bank only we are here, and we can also see the details here. And what is the starting number of the check on the checkbook? If it is 1, you can start with 1. And if bank gave you 10 checks, you can give quantity as 10. So I was saying that my check number started from 101. Okay, and 10 quantity. Total 10 checks bank gave me in the bank checkbook. So starting from 101, total quantity is 10. Clicking on OK. See here, 10 checks are created starting from 101, 102, 103, 4 in order. I see 110 checks. Okay. If you don't want this check number 110, or if bank is not given, you have additionally created it by mistake, you can delete it by click on deleting checks. Then you can have to give the number. If you want to delete both the checks 109 and 1010, you can select 109 and 1010. So in this range, system will delete all the checks. If you give 107, starting from 107 until 110, all the checks will be deleted. If you only want to delete one check, you can give from and to as the same check number 110 and 110. And if you click on OK, that check number 110 will be deleted here. Checks in the range 110 to 110 are deleted. You can delete the checks only when they are in created state, because you just created them and you did not use them for any purpose or for any payment, or you did not void them or book them for any situation. You just created them so that you can delete them. In any other status other than created, you can't delete a check. Okay, once it is used, you can't delete it from Dynamics. Remember that key point. If you want to add more checks, here you have the option always create checks. So the next number it picks is starting from 109. I mean, starting from 1010, the next number. If bank issued a check, which is not 1010, so this time it started from 201. Then in the next checkbook, if that bank gave you, they are not giving continuous time and they missed something and they gave 201 starting, and they gave you 10 more checks. Then from 109, the next numbers that are created are 201 and going to 2010. Right? And since they are for ICICI Bank, you can see ICICI Bank here. And if you have used one of these checks and you see the date of usage here in this column, which is not there now because we did not use this check set, and check number, status of the check, and the recipient means the vendor who receives the check. And since we did not use them, we don't see the recipient name even. The currency in which is printed on the check, or the amount of the currency that is used for the amount, and the amount on the amount printed on the check, or amount used for in the check here. That is seen here in the various columns. So going forward, if we do check transactions, if we pay the vendors using checks or issue checks to the vendors, we can see all these details getting filled. Check numbers will be picked starting from here in the order. Okay. Clear, guys? Any confusion in this? Anyone?
No.
So much silence. So noise for Seshu, Saideep, Shivkumar.
సార్ ఇది నావిగేషన్ చూపివా?
Navigation, go back. Bank accounts page. Okay.
ఓకే
Click on bank account. Manage payments.
ఓకే
Related information. Checks.
ఓకే ఫైన్. అండ్ ఇంకొకటి, ఇప్పుడు మనం ఇది ఫిక్స్డ్ కదా మనం తీసింది, సో ఫ్రీ దానికి ఎట్లా వస్తుంది? అంటే చెక్ నెంబర్స్ అనేది బై డిఫాల్ట్ వచ్చేస్తాయి లేకపోతే ఎట్లా?
ఫ్రీ చెక్ నెంబర్స్ ఏం ఇలా క్రియేట్ చేయవు, అవసరం లేదు.
ఓకే
సిస్టమ్ ఆటోమేటిక్ గా నెంబర్ 1 నుంచి తీసుకుంటది, దాన్ని నువ్వు అరేంజ్ చేసి నీకు కావాల్సిన నెంబర్ ఇచ్చుకోవచ్చు. ఎప్పుడైతే చెక్ ప్రింట్ చేస్తున్నావు అప్పుడు
ఓకే
you can give any number you wish and system will print the same number on the check automatically. Okay. Only for fixed method you will create, checks primarily before you print any check or use any check. You have to create checks like this. Okay. So for the other bank, SBI, we are using free method, right? We don't have to create checks. We'll just use it like that. Okay.
Okay.
And clear, guys, this one, creation of checks and deletion of checks if you don't require them. Suppose if I don't need checks from 201 to 2010, since they are in created state only, I can delete them. Starting from 201 to 210, delete them. System will delete them. So I only have these 9 checks for now. We'll use them to post transactions further. So we can see the invoices for which the checks are paid to, transaction behind the check, voucher number, reverse the check from here, print the check copy from here. You can do all of them, but once you use that check, you can see these options getting enabled. Then this one get disabled. If it is enabled also, no use. Tomorrow we'll see how we can print a check. So printing a check can be done only through one place, that is vendor payment journal in accounts payable. In only vendor payment journal you can print check. Okay, in other areas you can't print a check. Remember that point. And for posting a vendor payment journal and printing a check, we might need to configure the early setups in accounts payable module, like the vendor group, vendor posting profile, and the vendor, one of the vendor at least, then method of payment dash check. Then only we can print the check. So these 4 configurations tomorrow we'll quickly do, whereas we will descriptively see them or see a lot of options in them while we discuss about accounts payable module. And for you to practice, you can follow the same steps that I will show you in the tomorrow's class. Okay. I think that would be all for today's class. Did we left anything else? Layouts and creation of checks, yes, we discussed. Tomorrow we'll see this part, posting checks, cancelling them, reversing them, voiding them and all. Post dated checks, yes, we will see that too. Later we'll go for reconciliation. Right, takes quite 3 to 4 classes to finish. We'll go slow, no problem. practice it until here. Do let me know if you get any doubts, and if you have any doubts, you can still ask. We are still here. I'll stop the recording until here. It's only for 40 minutes.